With the alerts here in Hollywood, and I didn't feel a thing. But over in San Diego, obviously much different story at the world-renowned San Diego Zoo and Safari Park.
All right, take a look at this. A herd of elephants at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park jumped into action to protect their young after an earthquake hit the region yesterday.
A powerful earthquake just hit San Diego, and what happened next shook scientists, zookeepers, and anyone watching the footage. A herd of elephants reacted before the ground even moved. No alarms, no sirens, just instinct. Deadly accurate and frighteningly organized. Could this be a sign that nature's ancient warning systems still work, and that we've been ignoring them all along? This was just the start. The next earthquake will be so powerful it will destroy the whole city to the ground. The ground moved and the wild knew first. Right before it happened, San Diego was just another sunny day in Southern California. Tourists were sipping lattes, kids were playing in backyards, and the elephants at the Safari Park in Escondido stood lazily under the sun. Then the ground began to shake, not just tremble, but move like something alive underneath was shifting. A magnitude 5.2 earthquake tore across the land, and what followed wasn't just fear, it was a warning no one expected. Before we dig any deeper, know this: the quake was just the beginning, and what the elephants did next reveals a reality far more disturbing than anyone could have imagined. This wasn't the first quake to hit the region. Only 12 hours earlier, a smaller tremor, 3.5, rattled the earth just south of Julian. A warning shot, maybe. But that morning, when the shake alert system fired off at exactly 10 minutes past 10 Pacific time, it was clear. Something much bigger was happening. Phones across the region screamed with alerts. People ducked under tables. But at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park, something strange and terrifying took place. The elephants didn't run, they didn't freeze, they moved into formation. Security footage captured it all. The massive creatures were still one moment, and the next they shifted, fast and with eerie precision. 3 adult females, including matriarchs of the herd, turned their backs to the calves and formed a protective circle around them. Zuli and Micaiah, the 2 7-year-old elephants at the center, didn't have to be told what to do. They just knew. This wasn't just instinct. It was something deeper, something ancient. Experts call it an alert circle. It's not just a behavior. It's a social defense system passed down through generations of wild elephants. These aren't circus tricks. This is survival engraved in their bones. And what makes it more chilling? They reacted before many humans did. They felt the tremor before the sirens. While people were still figuring out what was going on, the elephants were already protecting their young. Let that sink in. Elephants sense danger through their feet, their ears. Their bodies are like massive seismographs, tuned to frequencies we can't even detect. And that morning, they read the signals long before the quake fully hit. While we rely on apps and digital alerts, these giants rely on a silent language we've barely begun to understand. Joshua Plotnick, a scientist at Hunter College, studies elephant behavior. He says these alert circles aren't rare, but they are remarkable. When elephants feel danger, they don't scatter. They come together. They shield the youngest, facing outward with powerful bodies ready to act. It's not fear, it's leadership. And it's a kind of social intelligence that challenges everything we think we know about the animal kingdom. What's even more startling, Plotnick says elephants have done this before, long before any official warnings were issued. During the Boxing Day tsunami in 2006, elephants in Thailand reportedly climbed to higher ground before the waves even came. They moved others with them. They reacted to seismic shifts, again, before humans could understand what was happening. Are we listening to what these animals are trying to tell us? Or are we too distracted to notice? This quake wasn't the biggest on record, not even close, but it was loud enough to wake up a part of the natural world we rarely notice until it's too late. Scientists say earthquakes in California are frequent, sometimes expected, but what the elephants showed was unexpected. Their behavior wasn't just reactionary, it was predictive. It revealed something terrifying that's been in front of us all along. Nature always knows first. The California governor, Gavin Newsom, was briefed immediately. Emergency response teams mobilized. The U.S. Geological Survey logged the quake. But none of them knew what was already happening on the zoo grounds. In the quiet shade of Escondido, a group of elephants moved with purpose, not panic. They didn't need instructions or drills. Their plan was older than memory. This is where things shift from curious to deeply unsettling. Because if animals can sense seismic danger before our machines can, what else are they sensing that we're missing? Are we so dependent on our tech that we've forgotten to watch the living indicators around us? The idea that a herd of elephants knew, truly knew, what was coming and reacted with military-like coordination challenges every assumption we've made about intelligence, threat detection, and natural warning systems. It wasn't just a tremor, it was a message. Not in words, but in behavior, in instinct, in ancient rhythm. We're only just beginning to decode it. And just when you think this moment at the zoo was an isolated reaction, the story deepens. Because this wasn't just about elephants. It was about survival and what it means when the natural world starts reacting faster than we can explain. The pattern beneath the panic. By the time most people had finished reading the first headlines, the elephants had already moved, held formation, and resumed a tense stillness. The alert circle was no accident. It wasn't an overreaction. It was a display of pattern recognition honed over millennia, something humans used to possess, but now outsourced to devices that buzz in our pockets. The earth cracked, and they responded, not with fear, but with order. And that should make us ask what they saw in the seconds before the rest of us felt anything at all. San Diego's quake, which danced between magnitude 5.2 and 6.0 depending on the source, is part of a wider truth Southern Californians know too well. The land is always shifting. But what happened that morning wasn't about geology, it was about instinct. Pure, raw instinct. And it wasn't only the elephants who reacted. Across the zoo, several species exhibited a phenomenon researchers call pre-seismic behavior. Birds went silent. Zebras huddled unnaturally close. Primates, usually loud and kinetic, froze and stared at nothing. This wasn't chaos. This was coordination without cause, behavior without explanation. From the outside, it looked like mass confusion. From the inside, it was a choreography of survival. Here's where it gets unsettling. This kind of collective animal response has been documented before, but it's often brushed off as coincidence or folklore. And yet, again and again, animals demonstrate an uncanny ability to respond to danger before it's visible. In 1975, in Haicheng, China, reports of unusual animal behavior led officials to evacuate the city. Days later, a massive earthquake struck. Thousands of lives were saved. It was one of the only times in modern history that people took animal behavior seriously, and it worked. But since then, silence, disbelief, disregard. The footage from San Diego should change that. Let's go back to the elephants. Scientists say they can detect low-frequency rumbles through their feet, what they call seismic communication. These aren't just sounds, they're vibrations, shifts, warnings. Some believe elephants may even have a specialized organ in their feet that translates ground vibrations into neurological signals. It's like having a built-in earthquake sensor. And unlike our tech, it never runs out of battery. So what happens when elephants and machines start reporting danger at the same time, but the elephants react first? We've spent so long thinking that tech is the future that we've forgotten nature got here first. What elephants did that morning was more precise than any early warning app. They didn't just hear it, they understood it. And that understanding led to action. Now ask yourself this, why does this matter so much? Because we live in a world where disasters are increasing. Climate instability, geological unrest. We're taught to rely on sirens and screens. But what if we're not paying attention to the most accurate early warning systems we have? Animals? And here's the part that's been bothering researchers ever since the footage came out. If the elephants reacted to the San Diego quake, and they've responded to tsunamis in the past, what else are they reacting to that we aren't noticing? Is it just earthquakes? Or is it bigger? Because elephants don't need a Richter scale to know the ground is shifting, and they don't need a meteorologist to know when something is coming. Their behavior, quiet, unified, deliberate, is more than just fascinating. It's predictive. The term alert circle might sound poetic, but in reality, it's chilling. It's a behavior that only kicks in when the threat is serious. These aren't playful movements. These aren't social games. This is an ancient, hard-coded survival protocol, and we were lucky to witness it. The calves at the center, Zuli and Micaiah, never moved. That stillness is a signal in itself. They've learned from birth what that circle means. Stay put, don't run, let the adults guard the perimeter. The adult females didn't need to bark orders or use force. They surrounded them with calm and vigilance, ready to defend if needed. It was a living fortress. Now let's pivot, because what San Diego experienced was a flashpoint, but not a one-off. The planet is speaking more frequently. Earthquakes, storms, floods, the numbers are rising, not falling. And every time disaster strikes, we act surprised. We call it unprecedented. But what if it's not? What if the animals around us have known all along, and we just stopped listening? There's something deeply wrong with how we frame these events. We treat nature like a background character in our human drama. But the elephants remind us, it's not a background, it's the main stage, and we're guests. In the days after the quake, analysis teams reviewed footage frame by frame. Experts in elephant cognition pored over the recordings, and the conclusion was always the same. This was not random. This was not stress. This was strategy. And that brings us to something even more urgent. We're running out of elephants. Signals in the silence. Days passed, and the footage didn't fade away. It exploded. News anchors paused mid-broadcast to show the moment the elephants moved. Social media was flooded with slow-motion clips, commentary from animal behaviorists, and stunned reactions from everyday people who had never thought twice about how animals perceive danger. This wasn't just another internet trend. It was a wake-up call wrapped in silence, heavy movement, and ancient instinct. But here's where things start to fracture. As attention turned toward the San Diego Zoo Safari Park, researchers weren't just praising the elephants. They were sounding alarms, because what we saw with Zuli, Micaiah, and the matriarchs isn't rare. It's just rarely captured. There are documented cases of similar animal behavior before volcanoes erupt, before hurricanes make landfall, even before landslides crash down mountains. Animals don't need a forecast. They feel the shift. And yet, for all our technology and predictive tools, we treat this knowledge like folklore, as if the science behind animal intuition isn't worth integrating into how we respond to disasters. Now imagine this. What if instead of ignoring these signals, we studied them? What if we equipped zoos and wildlife parks with seismic detection overlays, not just from machines, but from animals? A behavior monitoring network that triggers alerts when patterns like the alert circle occur. It's not science fiction, it's pattern science. Biology meets environmental sensing. It's what the elephants already do. We're just the ones catching up. This is about more than just elephants now. The quake in San Diego didn't only shake the zoo, it cracked open something deeper, the question of what we've been missing. Because while people were refreshing news sites for updates, the elephants had already made their move. They had reacted, assessed, and protected. That's not instinct. That's leadership. And if leadership like that can exist in nature, why aren't we following it? Think about the architecture of that alert circle. Adult elephants on the outside, facing outward, forming a shield. Younger, vulnerable members inside. No chaos, no fighting, just unity. Now compare that to how we respond as a society to disasters. Crowds rushing shelves, panic in the streets, conflicting information, delayed responses. What the elephants showed wasn't just awareness, it was organization. We talk about disaster readiness all the time, but we rarely act with the precision and calm that animals do when faced with actual danger. What if the real survival lesson isn't in training manuals or safety drills, but in the mud and dust of the animal kingdom? Now zoom out, because the earthquake wasn't isolated. Scientists have tracked a pattern of increased seismic activity across Southern California in recent months, from minor tremors near Julian to moderate quakes along the San Andreas fault line. And each time, animals have responded, long before sirens ever sounded. So what are they sensing that we're not? Some geophysicists believe animals can detect microtremors, tiny shifts in underground plates that precede major events. Others suggest they can hear infrasound, low-frequency noise created by rocks grinding beneath the surface. These theories are still being tested, but the consistent behavior, like what we saw in San Diego, suggests the truth is closer than we think. And here's where it gets darker. Because this isn't just about survival, it's about extinction. Not theirs, ours. Elephants have been walking this planet for millions of years. They've survived droughts, floods, ice ages, their communication systems, their group dynamics, their seismic sensitivity, all evolved to keep them alive in a dangerous world. But now, that world is collapsing around them. Poaching, deforestation, habitat destruction, human expansion. The same creatures that have carried warning systems in their bones for millennia are being pushed to the edge of existence. And when they go, so does everything they know, everything we could still learn. That should terrify you more than any earthquake. Because if we lose the elephants, we lose more than just an icon of the wild. We lose one of the last natural warning systems left on Earth. When the wild becomes the alarm, the footage still loops. People still watch the elephants form that perfect circle again and again. But what few realize is that moment wasn't just a reaction. It was a prediction, a behavior pulled from some ancient memory, built not on impulse but on survival. And now that memory is speaking louder than anything else. Not with words, but with stillness, with silence, with synchronized motion that no human system could replicate. But most of us won't listen until it's too late. Because here's what the elephants are telling us. Whether we understand them or not, the world is changing faster than we can measure. And those who can't feel it, who don't react, will be the first to fall when the real shocks arrive. San Diego's quake might have been just a tremor in geological terms, but in ecological terms, it was thunder, a warning crack that echoed into every corner of our disconnected, over-digitized lives. While we waited for confirmation from devices, the elephants moved with certainty. While we double-checked news feeds, they executed a flawless defense. And that's not just unsettling, it's humiliating. We are the species with satellites, labs, and AI systems. And yet it's the elephants who move first, who protect their own with unwavering focus. While we scroll, they act. While we debate, they shield. So what happens next? It depends on whether we accept what nature is trying to tell us, or if we stay blind until it's too late. Let's talk about systems. We build them everywhere. School systems, government systems, weather alert systems. But none of them are designed to interpret behavior like the alert circle. That's not a flaw in the elephants. It's a flaw in us. We've built a world where the loudest voice wins, where alerts must be digital, automated, machine-fed. But nature doesn't care about that. Its warnings come in silence, in instinct, in timing we can't track on screens. And maybe that's why we miss the signs before so many disasters in history. The Boxing Day tsunami, Hurricane Katrina, the Fukushima quake. In each case, stories surfaced afterward of animals moving to safety before the event. Animals climbing, retreating, crying out in ways their human caretakers didn't understand. And in each case, we learned nothing. That can't happen again. Not after San Diego. Because here's what's happening in real time now. Research teams are rushing to understand what the elephants sensed. Seismologists are revisiting how we map tremor patterns. Animal behaviorists are reviewing years of data, trying to draw correlations between movement and magnitude. Even the state's emergency management department is asking if zoos should be part of the alert infrastructure. It sounds crazy until you realize it makes perfect sense. Elephants don't guess, they feel. And what they felt that day may not have been just a quake. It may have been a series of tremors stacking beneath the surface, waiting for the right pressure point to crack. A chain reaction, a ticking sequence. So now the question that lingers isn't about the last earthquake. It's about the next one. What if the real danger hasn't happened yet? What if this was only the beginning? Because as the world watched those elephants close ranks, they missed something else. Their eyes. The matriarchs weren't just facing outward. They were scanning. Their trunks lifted slightly, their ears stiffened, their feet adjusted every few seconds, sensing not just the ground, but the pattern of its silence. And that's the part scientists still can't explain. How elephants process seismic patterns in ways that mirror, even surpass the algorithms in our labs. It's not just about detection, it's about understanding. Now think about that in the context of extinction. We are on the brink of losing elephants. Not to earthquakes, but to us. Every year, thousands are slaughtered. Every day, their habitats shrink. Every minute, the distance between their world and ours grows. And if they disappear, so does the knowledge encoded in their survival. Is the natural world screaming warnings we've grown too distracted to hear? Are elephants trying to save us from something even more devastating than we can imagine? Tell us what you think, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more.